Hello, everybody, and welcome to what would be week 45 of Jedi Perspectives at Temple of the Jedi Order. Um, for those of you who aren't familiar with perspectives or haven't previously participated, this hour operates more like a discussion group than a lecture or anything else. I don't have any fancy slides or a PowerPoint like some of the other presenters have had this week. We're going to be discussing everything together and definitely some active participation, just like Tavi's last presentation is going to be required. Um, for this week's discussion, I chose the topic of needs, things that are required, essential, important. Um, we all have them: physical needs, emotional needs, and spiritual needs. For the most part, it would seem that these needs are universal. Physically, we all get hungry, we all get thirsty, we need to eat and drink. You get tired, you need to sleep. Emotionally, we all want to feel loved, cared for, supported, encouraged. Um, but what about spiritual needs? It seems to me that most people treat spiritual needs, quote unquote, as highly individualized. Everyone's needs are different, as are the remedies. Um, and I just want to hear from everybody. First question is, do you agree with this idea? Do you think that spiritual needs are very, very individualized as opposed to like universal? If yes, what spiritual needs do you require to be fulfilled that you think might be different from others? And if not, what spiritual needs do you think are quote unquote universal, so to speak? I figure we can kind of do the hand raising thing like we did in the last discussion. First one I saw up go was Master Zero here.
So most of you know my background. Um, I went to seminary for many, many years. And one of the first classes I took, the instructor did I forget what he called the class, but what it boiled down to is when you walk into any church, every single person's beliefs are going to be different. Even if you're walking into a Catholic church, sure, you may be Catholic, but your internal views of even something simple as heaven and hell, your personal views of what that is going to be vastly different than the person sitting next to you. What you view as a sin, short of the 7 deadly sins or one of the 10 commandments, what you view as a sin is going to be vastly different than the person sitting next to you. I'm sure we've all bumped into Christians at some point who are like, oh, you can't say the F word, that's a sin. Is it? It's not in the Bible anywhere. What makes it a sin? So part of what drew me to Jediism is that all of our beliefs are so different. I know like Davi is big into tarot and psychics and nature, and that's not where my heart is. But me and him get along great. And we can practice our beliefs in the Force side by side. Because what our internal beliefs are so unique to us that we don't even see each other as different anymore. Does that make sense?
I think so. So are you saying that you think, maybe this isn't exactly what you're saying, but that belief is synonymous with spiritual fulfillment, like that need that needs to be fulfilled? Or are you kind of
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
okay?
I mean, I tend to see religious beliefs like snowflakes. There's no two that are the same, but we still need the snow. It serves its purpose.
Okay, I like that.
No two water drops are exactly the same, but we all still need them for life. No two blades of grass, no two leaves in the tree. They're all different, but they serve a purpose. And all the leaves together on the tree, that's the church. You know, we're the leaves. The tree is Jediism. We don't have to be the same to be kind of the same.
Heck yeah, I like that answer. Um, I think Davi, I think I saw your hand go up next if you want to go.
Sure. So when it comes to needs, you think about when you start out life, what do you need? You know, you need sustenance, you need to be cared for and loved, right? The initial connection to the force is already there as a child. Many people have, heard stories of young ones having knowledge of past lives or strange things that they know without having any prior knowledge. And to me, that's accessing the force because I can do that now. Um, so as you move through life, your needs change. So maybe right away you don't feel the need for spirituality because it's already there. Or perhaps maybe you have your needs are covered in every other realm, so the spirituality need isn't there at that point. But at some point in your life, you may turn to spirituality. And for some people it's at their last moments, and some people it's at the end of a relationship. For some people it's just because something triggered them. I don't know, maybe they saw something and it made them feel spiritual. So I think that our needs change throughout life, and maybe some people can be Christian, can become reborn Christian, right? We've heard that, and I think that we all make choices. So the connection is there for everybody, and if we're to believe that everything is connected, and of course there only can be one truth to what is the force, and what created everything and all that stuff, then we'd have to assume that uh, the way we look at it, like as Zero said, if the way he sees the force, if he's connecting to it that way, then he's connecting to it, and that's how he does it. And I think that there's a lot of ways that we can connect to the force, and I think there's a lot of ways that we can share that, and maybe by learning from each other, we can learn to connect in other ways. So the needs are independent for sure, and I think it changes based on where you're at and what you're going through.
Heck yeah, thank you. Um, I think
Um,
Peter.
Real
Oh,
quickly, I just want to touch something that Davi said. There's a line in a song, and I actually recommended that song to Domino the other day. Just because you're right, that doesn't mean I'm wrong.
hmm, heck yeah.
With where Davi is in his spiritual path, just because it's way different than my spiritual path, that doesn't make him wrong.
That's right. It's been
And
really it's
when
been
you
really
get
difficult for me to feel the way that I do, or to have experienced things that I have, and to not be able to give that to somebody for an example, because my experiences are different. So I know that what I've seen, I can't possibly just give it to you. You have to see it for yourself or experience it yourself. And maybe in this lifetime you won't, right? But it doesn't mean that, like you said, there's no right or wrong. And um we're all learning, and I think the great thing about hermeneutics is that we can always go through things and relearn, and learn and add on to that and say, okay, well, we know a little bit, but what else don't we know? What more can we add to that? So as long as we're open as Jedi to what we don't know, I think that there's, the possibilities are endless. But we're all the
right,
same. We're all Jedi. We're all humans. We're all cells, biological animals or whatever. We're all the same. So we have to recognize that even though we are the same, that we may have different experiences and see things differently. So some people are deaf, they don't get to hear ever. Some people are blind, never get to see, right?
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah. I don't think that I don't think that different necessarily means right or wrong. I just think it means different. You know what
that's
I
right.
mean? So that's kind of what I was driving at. Peter,
well,
did you?
when you open it up to there's more than one right, it
Hmm.
narrows down the wrong real quick.
Oh yeah.
And what's right for you is what's right for you, and that is fulfilling, in my mind, your biggest need as a human. You need to feel connected to something. be that a community like this. I mean, we're not all Tokyo people, we're not all IJF people. Some are both, some are none. But we can still connect like this, and we need to connect like this. People who end up very isolated end up with all kinds of mental issues and social issues. And us doing this, even though our beliefs are somewhat different from each other, it's fulfilling a huge need. And I will shut up now.
It's all good. All right. Now, Peter, let's hear what you have to say.
My turn now.
Yeah, your turn. Your turn.
I mean, I almost wanted to put my hand down because the two answers that were given were phenomenal answers. I would, I don't want to say argue Zero's point with you go to a church where everyone is following the same church gospel, and yet they still have completely different ideas of faith or religion or belief systems or whatever. I would fully agree that they are different, but similar enough. And I think that's what we have in this community is we are similar enough that we unite. But when I studied under myself from about 2006 to 2011, 2012, when I finally did a search to see if anyone else out there in the world, I did a Google search to see, does anyone follow or is there such a thing as a Jedi religion in real life? And I was blown away by the fact that there were so many different groups out there. Because I totally thought I was just running on a tangent with my personal belief system, thinking, you know, I'm believing this fictional world and applying that to my personal life. And in those 5 years of me studying on my own, I was like, man, I got it figured out. This is how the truth is. And when I came and found the community and I presented it, and I was shot down I mean, the first thing I heard was, you can kind of believe what you want to believe when you know, in the Jedi faith of things. And then when I presented my ideas, I was completely shut down about, well, we're just out there being crazy kind of thing. And, but I think the Force was out there to teach me a lesson about my humility, and my, you know, I have some things figured out, and I needed to learn some other lessons. And so I was kind of humbled, and you know, I may have stepped back a little bit, and I don't know if this community thing is really for me, because they don't want to believe what I'm feeding here. But come to find out, in my endeavors through this process, was that my belief is completely true and absolutely wrong, because it's true enough to me for me to follow it, but it's absolutely wrong for me to press that somebody else needs to follow it. The Jedi path is a solitary one, but that we are never alone on the path, because we're always crisscrossing with similarities in what we're believing. And I'm sorry, I don't recall the second person's name that spoke there.
Dobby.
But Adabi, but that was, the insight there was great as well. You know, because our understanding changes, we adapt, we learn new things, and we apply that to our principles and our life and our direction. And so we're, especially as Jedi, keep maintaining an open mind where, you know, whatever I believe is good for me, but I have to maintain an open mind and continue challenging what I believe to fully solidify what my belief is. and how my spiritual needs are being met with what I am pursuing in my belief system. So I think that's the key point to that is we're similar enough that we come together as a community, even though our perceptions are different on the same subject matter. So yeah, we have different beliefs, we have different needs as far as our spiritual needs go. And one last thought is there's no stronger prayer than the prayer that's in the foxhole. So when you're on the battlefield, that's when faith really comes to the forefront. So thought I'd add that in.
Oh, heck yeah. And I think I definitely agree with all three of you guys, at least to some degree. I do like what you said, Peter, about how not to completely dispute what Zero was saying, but I think there is definitely like some kind of line that gets drawn, especially when it comes to belief and that kind of stuff. You know, I couldn't very well walk into said church and call myself a Christian and then just believe that Jesus was just a carpenter. Like, oh yeah, he was a really good carpenter. But I don't know about that whole like son of God stuff. You know, so could I call myself a Christian at that point? You know, there is kind of some universal belief there that you kind of have to fall into. And similarly, I think towards needs as well. Like Davi was saying, it might be different things at different points, but I think that some of those needs are the same, despite the individual proclivities of the individual person. Does anybody else have anything specifically for that question? If not, I will go ahead and move on. Some of you guys might remember in one of our more recent perspectives discussions, we talked about supplements. The idea that people often supplement things into their lives that they could, or rather should, be getting in a better, for lack of better phrasing, more natural way. Going back to the needs of hunger and thirst, we all hunger and thirst, but we remedy these needs with different kinds of food and drink. You could say that there's a best way to remedy those needs: healthy foods, healthy drinks, making sure that you're getting enough protein, vitamins, etc. Going back to emotional needs, you might say that despite the wide range of emotional needs that we have, there might be a best way of fulfilling them as well. Forming close relationships, being part of a community, cultivating a healthy environment, healthy lifestyle, etc. Again, we find ourselves back at spiritual needs, spirituality, and how they need to be fulfilled. We might all agree, whether you think that spiritual needs are universal or individual, that the ways of fulfilling spiritual needs to be different for everybody, or at the very least, we have different preferences. But is there, kind of like, all personal train, nine out of the 10 dentists recommend Crest. You know what I mean? Is there a best way, quote unquote, to fulfill those needs? Is there a universal formula for spiritual fulfillment? Why or why not? I'd love to hear from you guys on that.
I think it's overly personal, and there is no best way, because what works best for me won't work best for you, or won't work best for Amelia, or won't work best for Karina. We've got very different backgrounds and different beliefs, and different life events have happened to us. So there's no very Christian way of thinking when you say you have to do it like this or it don't count.
Master
Clear
Rosalind?
that throat, Master Rosalind.
What happened?
Your turn.
Oh yeah. So I think one of the ways that we can see whether or not this works is to look at all the denominations and all the different religions and all the different religions within the religions within the religions within the religions, like so many Russian dolls. Um, you know, this idea, this it's impossible to create a one size fits all spiritual package, cure all. That's like trying to give everybody the same medicine. I have a broken leg, Tylenol. I have a this, Tylenol. It's like what? So no, not everything can can be solved that way. So yeah.
I think the way that I was kind of trying to phrase the question was like it always was super annoying to me in school when we'd be taking a test and there'd be like, here's the right answer. But it's multiple choice and there was a more right answer, and that's the one that they wanted you to pick. So I think what I was kind of trying to drive at is like, yeah, I think definitely to some degree, you know, it's going to be based on the individual, but kind of like I was joking around, nine out of 10 doctors recommend this thing. Is there something between, all these religions and all these different belief systems? Is there kind of a universal need that everybody needs to be
Are we
needs to
talking
be
about
filled in the same way or the same
perennial?
need?
Are we talking about like perennial philosophy?
Um, I mean, I think I might try to tie that in at some point, but just in general, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have to be some sort of specific philosophy. It's just kind of like, everybody could probably use more vitamin D. Everybody could probably, everybody benefits from protein. Everybody benefits from, a loving household, for lack of a better word. So, is there anything that is totally across the board you could say, yeah, everybody needs that when it comes to spirituality?
I think it's always gonna be an individual experience because I mean, although we are humans, we have individual consciousnesses, and when we have those individual consciousnesses and individual experiences, yes, it's all probably it all drives to one singular point. However, what I would say is that we are not in an objective enough space to see it because our experience is going to be individualistic and subjective.
For sure. Um,
I love
I,
the idea that we're not objective enough to be subjective. It fits so well.
I second that.
Cool.
is
Something.
is it Adastria? Is that how you pronounce it? Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, Adastria is fine. I wanted to touch a little bit on something that I guess can tie into the first question because I lost my because I had I had what I call religious trauma growing up. And it took me a long time to even want to come back to spirituality or religion in general. But so finding the Jedi path was very healing for me. And what I found and what has helped me along this path is that I think that each and every religion underlying thing that connects everybody to me manifested like as the force, but at some point I recognized that to me that force was love. And so for me, I think that is at the heart of most all religions is love. And it sounds cliche, but I think that is the very fabric of what our connection to the earth is, our connection to each other, our connection to our spirituality. There is this connection of love that exists in all of them. And even though, yes, and I completely agree with everything that everybody has said so far, that yes, everybody's needs are individualistic, but at the center of everything, I think everybody at some level needs some form of love. And I think that really encompasses to what the first part of the question, but that would be my answer.
Heck yeah, thank you. Davi, I think your hand went up next.
You got it, Master. Adastria, absolutely. I just want to say that your answer is spot on and really where I was heading. Um, love is a great word to use for what we're looking for in spirituality, and that's the connection to the Force, right? So, um, love is one way that we connect to each other or other living things, and it's a beautiful connection that we make, and it's invisible. So you can definitely describe that as the Force, um, or at least a part of it. uh, I think beyond that, though, beyond the word love, you could use the word connection. I think that we're all looking for connection, and I think spirituality and religion, it gives people that. You go to the church, you sit in the pews, and you're with people. And today, I think we know that that sort of mentality is being lost, especially amongst the younger generations, where people don't go and do that, and now they sit in their bedrooms and play video games, or they do their own thing. And so I think connection is the most important. I think that's what everyone's looking for, and ultimately I think that's what you get out of the Force, is that if you realize that you are connected and that everything is a part of the Force essentially, and everything is moving, and as everything is energy, and you make that connection, then you realize you're not alone. You never could be. So I think that that's what everyone's ultimately looking for in spirituality anyway.
I like that. I think, I think it's safe to say that if you're showing up to a church or to an event like this, you're not trying to be alone. It's safe to say that everybody showing up to church is looking for, or whether it's a church or a temple or a physical gathering or, something like that, people are looking for that connection. They're looking to be part of a community. They're looking to, you know, find people that share those similar beliefs, even though they might not be exactly the same beliefs. They're looking for something similar. They want to find commonality. They want to find, like you said, connection. I think,
or, or even strength, right? When you get one voice, two voices, 10 voices in a choir,
yes,
it sounds a lot different.
I like that answer. Definitely.
If I may.
Go for it.
So, one thing I've noticed in the Jedi community, and pretty much everybody I can see here has said it at least once, is the Jedi. I mean, we all see people come and go. At Tocho, we see it 30 times a day. People pop in, look around, and beat feet. The people who end up staying are the ones looking for something. And they're the ones that a year later or 2 years later, they say, I found it right when I needed it. I've never seen that phenomena anywhere else in religion, where the people who stick it out are the ones who found it when they needed it. They didn't just stumble across it one day and then in and out and in and out and in and out. They found it, they dove in, and they immersed themselves in it. And it's that connection that you guys are talking about that I think is what people need. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know they're not the only ones going through what they've went through, and that we've all had trauma at some point. And this is a place where you can share it, and more than share it, you can learn from it. I just wanted to throw that out there. That's how my mind works during these things. Like, hey,
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's why I love this discussion group, because stuff pops into your head, or you hear something that somebody else says that makes you think about something a little bit more, and that's why we're all here, is to share perspective.
I've never seen anybody come in saying, "Oh yes, this is right where I need to be because this, and this happened," and then leave.
Mm.
And I've never seen anybody stick around for 20 years because they just happened upon us one day. Might be something to that.
Heck yeah. Peter, you're up.
Well, first of all you need is love. Had to go there.
Heck yeah.
But love, connection, and interaction. I would add that one in as well. I think your spiritual path is driven by what you experience through your life. And so like Adastria talking about spiritual trauma, I mean, I have seen that as well, where the religious basics can traumatize a person based on overbearance or something to that effect. That just that there's a deception that happens where you believe that your faith is gonna support you, and those that you believe are messengers turn their back on you and shun you away. You know, when at your greatest time of need. And you know, for me personally, like I've been protected from serious injury, even death, multiple times, so many times that it just can't be coincidence. And so, you know, for me, coming to the Jedi path, really inevitable, but it was about an interaction that I really hadn't experienced yet, with researching and involving myself in religion, back and forth. And like Zero says, you know, I was raised LDS and I floated back and forth. I was born into that religion. I didn't search for it. And when I was sitting in Iraq contemplating lost lives, and was watching, I believe it was episode 1 or 3. I can't remember which one it was, but Yoda was talking about life and death, and the Force just called to me as legitimate. And so that's why I was like, well, maybe I should, you know, research this more. Again, never believing anyone else out there would ever think to follow a movie's, you know, religious guiding group or anything like that. Like I totally didn't expect that there to be people out there following this. So I mean, but I think life, and it goes back to what I said about the strongest prayers is in the foxhole. You know, I was taught that in basic training. Sundays, getting out of doing the work in the barracks. You know, that was what the drill sergeants would talk about. That there's no stronger prayer than in the foxhole. You guys, you know, pretend practitioners of religion during, you know, basic training just to get out of doing work, but you'll know a real you'll find religion in the foxhole is what they would often say, because that's when, you know, stuff is real. So your life experience, I think, drives that a lot as far as where your path leads, but interconnection, that connectedness with others in a similar belief system, interaction with them, that you find that what you're looking for, what you're pursuing in your spiritual life is not out of reach. I think is what I'm really trying to get at with that point. So thank you.
Oh, heck yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Does anybody have anything else before I go ahead and move on?
Me again with my big ass mouth.
Do it.
So Peter hit on legitimacy. I know most of you have heard me talk about my thesis when I got my doctorate. It's on the creation of the Bible. It broke me when I started learning things like Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John didn't know Christ. They never met him. I was dumbfounded, and it broke me hard. I just spent 8 years studying this religion. This religion was about to become my entire life. And when I started picking it apart and really looking at historical resources, and it broke me because I couldn't find legitimacy. And then coming to Jediism, I found that there's no way to find legitimacy. I can't prove my faith here. I can't prove to you that there is a force. I know it. I can, because of things I can feel and things I've experienced, and that pretty little feeling you get deep down in your gut. But I can't prove it. And likewise, you can't disprove it. And when you find a faith that meets your legitimacy requirements, I think that's the one you land on. I don't know. I'm rambling. Forgive me.
No, I like it. No, thank you.
Like an unending train of thought.
Master Roslin?
So then the opposite is true. Like there's no need to prove, right? So either it is and it's beneficial and valid and important and all that to the person who's practicing, or it's not. And if I don't want to be like arrogant because it's I don't mean it to sound that way, but if somebody else can poke holes in your Jediism, uh one, that's not what we're supposed to do, but then also like, is that something that it's really authentically you? I don't know how to explain it in a different way.
It's all right.
May I?
Well, I guess that it's because Jediism doesn't claim to be factual.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of
We
there's
don't have a book that says in 1992 Master Roslin got her hair done and then the Force appeared to her.
well,
Just for us to find out that in 1992 you were only 4 years old.
well, that's the
You know what I mean?
That's the cool thing about Jediism, and is that we know it's fake in a sense because it comes from the imagination of George Lucas. You know, we know it's fiction. So that pressure is removed. You know.
Yeah.
That's a good way to word it. I wouldn't say that all of our faith comes from fiction, but you're right. There's no pressure to prove it. There's no one trying to poke holes in it, and even if there was, there's no way to do it.
Right.
You can't poke holes in a feeling I have.
May I?
You want to add something, Peter?
Yeah, I was trying to cut it in there a bit here. It goes to the point I made about what I believe is absolutely true and completely incorrect. that I should challenge my beliefs at all times, to confirm that what I am attempting to understand and me when I came into the community and hey, this is the truth according to Peter, and was completely shot down, and I was kind of a little butthurt that that people in the community didn't understand, but I wasn't wrong. I was incorrect. I was incorrect in thinking that my belief should be your belief. That my belief is legitimate, and that when I challenge it, it just confirms it that much more. That what I am understanding and following means that much more to me. So yeah, that's adding there.
Thank you. Graybeard.
Made dinner. Give me a second. I love to talk about faith and how we all have different beliefs. I was talking this morning with our retiree council on base. It's you want to talk about a bunch of crusty old guys from the 60s on who retired in like the early 80s. They're hilarious. One of the gentlemen made a good point a few months ago with our base chaplain that you can't know and believe something at the same time. I know my father because he is there. I can actually see him and interact with him. But to believe in it takes something deeper, something more special from inside. So I can believe in the Force, but I can't know the Force. I can believe in this, but I can't know this. So a different view that he put it out there, and it was funny that the chaplain sat there and scratched his head for 20 minutes trying to figure out what he meant. So
Yeah, no, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I like that.
There's a movie line that falls right in line with that from the movie Constantine. And he's talking to an angel, and she's like, well, you've lost your faith. He says, but I know heaven and hell are real. Or no, he says, I believe heaven and hell are real. And she says, no, you know there is. That's not faith. Faith is believing in something you can't see, not something you already have seen.
I think that's what a lot of people get confused is they're taking what they can see as a belief or they're taking what they can see as a belief rather than just knowing it.
Well, like for an example, I mean, I believe that I've had messages directly from the Force, and I have them quite often, but I've never seen a god nor anyone that calls himself the Force or anything of the like. I don't believe it's like that. I think I definitely don't. That's not my belief anyway. But I think that we see what we want to see. Some people see spirituality in a robin. Some people see spirituality in a cross. Some people see spirituality in all sorts of things. In the the cosmos, for example, it's everywhere. The whole point is it's everything. That's what we believe in as Jedi, and I think the whole point is to find the interconnectedness in between all things, and together we kind of do that because we're all parts of the puzzle, right?
Oh, heck yeah. I am gonna move us along a little bit because we're getting close to the end of the scheduled hour, but I don't think there's anybody after me. So if we go a little bit late, I don't think it's a
No,
big deal.
yeah. If you want to go late, that's fine. Whatever.
In this case, Verheilen is the Force. So now you can say you've seen someone, Dobby, who is in fact the Force.
Well, I guess in that respect, I guess I've seen a lot of things of the Force because everything is, right? So it's just the physical aspect of it. So really, if seeing is believing, we should all start believing right now.
All right. So how does this all, I mean, obviously we've touched on it a little bit, but specifically, how does this all relate back to Jediism? And I mean, that's why we're all here, right? Why we call ourselves Jedi. This we see this avenue, this path, the various temples and organizations that we belong to, as the correct formula, at least for us, um, or part of the correct formula for spiritual fulfillment. Um, you could say potentially that if there were a better way, or at the very least a more preferential way that we thought was better, we'd be participating in that particular religion or practice. Um, I'm currently reading a book for my Bachelor's of Divinity through Joe called "The Varieties of Religious Experience" by William James. The overall theme of the book, which is a series of lectures that he gave, um, is to look at the merits of religion and their impact on the human condition, or the human experience, so to speak. In his 14th lecture, James posits that any religion is only as good as the current moral and intellectual climate. To quote directly from the book, quote, "Nothing is more striking than the secular alteration that goes on in the moral and religious tone of men as their insight into nature and their social arrangements progressively develop. After an interval of a few generations, the mental climate proves unfavorable to notions of the deity, which at an earlier date were perfectly satisfactory. The older gods have fallen below the common secular level and can no longer be believed in. Today, a deity who should require bleeding sacrifices to placate him would be too sanguinary to be taken seriously. Even if powerful historical credentials were put forward in his favor, we would not look at them. Once, on the contrary, his cruel appetites were of themselves credentials. They positively recommended him to men's imaginations in ages when such coarse signs of power were respected and no others could be understood. Such deities were such deities then were worshipped because such fruits were relished. Uh, People who've tuned into past perspectives discussions or have read my journals have probably heard me refer to Jediism as a hyper-real religion, um, a term used to describe religions created as part of a new consumer trend in acquiring and acting religion from what's called the religious marketplace, often, if not exclusively, formed from popular culture or science fiction. I think this description of Jediism seems to fit the profile of the type of religion that James is describing here in the book. That of a religion befitting its time. So my final question or questions for the discussion here: how long before Jediism, as James puts it, falls below the secular level? Is there potential for Jediism to stop meeting our needs anytime soon? Is that something that you see happening? Does it have the potential to evolve rather than fade into irrelevance or obsolescence? What do you guys think? Is this something, obviously it's kind of in its infancy, it hasn't been around too long, it's way too soon to say, when's it going to die off, when is it going to go away? But do you guys kind of, hopefully you kind of understand the way I'm phrasing the question is, if and when will Jediism stop meeting our needs spiritually? Is that something that you see potentially happening?
Welcome to another rant by Zero. No, I don't think it's going to fall off. It may evolve, but as we've said to every question you've asked, it's so personal that I don't think it can fall off. It's so unique to each one of us and it fills our current need. And as our needs change, so too will Jediism because it's so unique to us. Thank you. This has been another rant by Zero.
That's my dad.
Davi?
Well, for me, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, Jediism is doing what's right, doing the right thing. So, and believing in the interconnectedness of all and searching for truth. So, no matter what we find, whatever that truth is, I think one could always still call themselves a Jedi. and respecting what was presented by, you know, the films in Star Wars, at least. It's like a new take on Buddhism, if you will, or Zen Buddhism. Just essentially finding peace, right? So no, I don't imagine in the near future that we'll want to stop finding peace and being good people. No. Anyway, may have a better name for it, but I doubt that the idea of being a Jedi will disappear.
So the kind of what I was thinking about when I put the question together was, you know, we live in this age of like rapid evolution. You know, we went from 100 years ago, you know, we were riding around on horses, and then, you know, boom, cars, boom, planes, boom, this, boom, that, boom. We're just advancing so quickly. And, you know, I don't know about everybody else, but me personally, I kind of see religion as metaphor. So it only, at least in my mind, logically, if a better metaphor were to come along, it would seem that the right course of action would be to begin to, you know, describe our belief through that metaphor, fall into that kind of practice. So that's kind of what I meant when I was, you know, like, do you think that Jediism has the potential to evolve rather than like, you know, than to for us to find a better metaphor? Can we make Jediism a better metaphor, or will we eventually find a better metaphor? That's kind of how I was putting that together. I just explained my thought process a little better, but
I mean, I think we'd be naive to think that there couldn't be some sort of evolution, right, of to where we are now.
mhm.
Metaphors are also in the eye of the beholder.
True, definitely.
You can look at Spider-Man and find things that are Jediism related, or you can tie them right back to Jediism. Or if one day, let's say, it became morally appropriate to slap your neighbor in the face on Thursdays, we could go, oh, well, Qui-Gon slapped that dude in the face in that book way back when, so it still fits. Or Mace Windu had a dream about slapping that guy in the face, only he was going to call him something that was not guy. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. It's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
This has been another rant by Zero.
Oh heck yeah.
Hey guys, my name is. Sorry, I'd like to add something. If it's okay.
Yeah, go for it, Zach.
Cool. Yeah, I'm new. Thanks for hosting these and yeah, being so like open and accepting so far. For me, like I grew up Catholic and then hung out with Christians, and at a certain point, you know, had a lot of issues with, you know, organized religion, and then just started studying, you know, philosophy, religion, just in general. And one thing that like really was great about like what I noticed pretty early on about, you know, our Jedi Order is like we are kind of agnostic and we study all of them. So for me, like, yeah, it might evolve, but it kind of feels like the end path, you know, like the place you go where, you know, you realize there's no one size fits all, no one answer, and then you're just free to, you know, study and apply, you know, at will as needed. You know, I've always been big on taking the good and bad from religion. So yeah, I think that's like, you know, a big part of a big aspect that sets us apart a little bit here. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Thanks for letting me speak up.
Heck yeah, thank you. Amelia, I don't think we've heard from you.
So how I've seen Jediism is that it's more orthopraxic than having like a hard orthodoxy. It's more right action versus believing the right thing. So with that kind of flexibility, I think it can evolve and adapt as times change. So it probably won't, you know, it might take a while for it to fall off if it does fall off. Um, and there is a belief that goes with it. There is the philosophy that goes with Jediism, but again, I see it as more orthopraxic because that philosophy informs our actions, like how we conduct ourselves, how we interact with the world around us. So
100%.
yeah, so I think it has the flexibility to like last for quite a while.
I think you're definitely right. I think when I first came through here, I was more looking for, ever since I was a kid, I've kind of been obsessed with codes of honor, like the Knights of Camelot. I'm a big nerd, so I love like the Klingons from Star Trek, and obviously the Jedi from Star Wars, and I think that there's definitely something to that, and that's, like I said, that's what first drew me here. And then eventually I came to kind of come around to the fact that the Force was just like this incredible metaphor for my individual belief, and it all kind of came together. But I do like how you touched on that, how it's more of it's more about action and a way of living your life first, and then that leads into everything else. So I definitely agree with you on that. Adastria.
I forgot what I was gonna say. But I think I was gonna touch upon how part of the thing that I really love about being a Jedi is that it's inviting you to go exploring. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge is one of my main favorite lines from the code because it allowed me to go exploring. I was also raised Catholic, and looking outside of your religion was frowned upon. I was looking outside of anything, you would go to hell. And so that fear was instilled inside of me not to look outside of it. And I'd say that it's Star Wars the only way that I even got, because what is a Jedi is like, it's like Eastern philosophy wrapped in a fiction. And those were my first introductions to what was Eastern philosophy that rang true. When I lost my faith in Catholicism and the trauma that I experienced, it was that like, that's what resonates, that the Eastern philosophy, but I didn't know that's what it was because I wasn't allowed to look outside of my boxes. And so finding the Jedi path and knowing that is encouraged, you're encouraged to go exploring other religions, what resonates to you. You can pick and choose what is for your heart, and take that with to grow and empower yourself. And I thought that's so incredible. Part of also what I really loved about it when I found the community was that the Jedi Compass existed, because that's also a growing it's a growing document based on the community and what it believes in. And that's also something that I think is so beautiful to have, because as a community, we're coming together to be like, this is where what we're at, this is where our movement is going. And I think that's so powerful than just, this is what you need to believe in, this is the only right way. We are growing as a community based on what we believe in, and how society is growing. And as Jedi, if it is our path to help protect others and to continue to grow, we're going to be moving with society. Who are we serving, right? So I don't think there is a chance for evolution to stop, but I do sometimes feel like there are certain Jedi who feel like there has to be a definition, because they see that the religions that have lasted for thousands of years are the ones that have like a structure, that this is what they believe, and that's why they lasted for so long. But in my head, I'm like, no, that's not what needs to happen. But I think the only fear that I have is that there's a push to define the Force, because to me, that is the one thing that I feel that empowers this path so much, because how you define the Force is how you will apply the philosophy and how you define the force can go all spectrum, because that is how I even found my own way back to spirituality. When I lost my faith in Catholicism, I went full atheist, but I can believe in the force as an atheist, because I call myself a spiritual atheist for a long time. It's because even if we want to look at it scientifically, we're all connected to our ancestors' DNA or to our past. And even scientifically, there's proof that memories can get passed to DNA. Wisdom is in our DNA. And so there's a full spectrum of how you can even view the force. But I think that is what's so empowering about it. So I'm hoping that we continue to allow us as a community to continue to define it as how we need. But that would be my only fear, is that that push is that somebody's eventually, no, this is, if you don't believe the force is this, then you can't be a Jedi. But I know that there's certain people that believe that that is why it's not hasn't grown, but I feel like that is what allows us to continue to have a bigger container to allow us to go exploring to find out what that means.
I will say
My
that
bad.
I will say that I'm guilty as charged. I do sometimes wish that there was a little bit more uniformity, a little bit, for lack of a better word, a little bit more dogma. Not too much, just a little bit. Come on, just a tiny bit. And then I do like what you said. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about. The religious marketplace, as it were. 150 years ago, if you were born in a certain area into a certain religion, that's all you knew. That you had there was no choice. That was it. You're going to be this. And now we live in a time, I think we talked about it in the last time we did like a live Zoom perspectives, was the Black Mirror, technology, connecting through the internet and all this kind of stuff has opened us up to all these new ideas and things that we would have never previously been able to share with anybody else or talk about or do anything like that. So I do think, like you said, there is a much higher potential for evolution with Jediism than just going obsolete. Ashley, I don't think we've heard from you. If you wanna go.
So, and what Karina's talking about is a very real thing, by the way. We've had people that outside of Tajo we've had to argue with, that are very old guard, who believe that the community is dying because we don't have a definition of the force. Like, it's not even the rest of the dogma. That's the only thing they care about. So there's value in having some dogma. Looks like you're what? Oh, whatever that thing is. Okay. I saw a thing that was like, looks like you're talking, where we're gonna lower your hand. I'm like, what is this? Okay, whatever. So the that is something. But for me, I think that the only time that the Jedi will probably die out is when there's no longer a want for the Jedi, not mythos, archetype, that's the word, and people want to use something else. I don't think that the idea behind it will die out, but it would kind of be more like, well, if we look throughout history, we see that religions rise, and then when they're no longer needed, they die, but the spirit of what that was, what they have in them, still carries on through something.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we're teaching people, our legacy will carry on. It just might not have that name. It might not even have a name that has anything similar to it. They might just replace the word force with God, and then do what the New Age community does and make it whatever you want God to be. I mean, it doesn't matter though. We're here now. This is a community for us right here and now. And that's the beauty of the last line of the Jedi Code. There is no death. There is the Force. It changes, it transforms. And we don't have to be beholden to the idea that we need to make this thing live and like keep it going, we can just hold it in our own hearts. If it doesn't survive beyond anybody in this room, who cares? Who cares? As long as we pass on what we want to pass on to other people, and that can carry on. Yeah, actually, Zach makes a good point. Saturnella became Christmas. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. I don't want to misquote her, but I think it was Master Roslin that I heard say one time, if we didn't call ourselves Jedi, we might just call ourselves humanist or something to that effect. Just something, the same thing by a different name. You know what I mean?
Something.
I want to bring back the hippie thing, and we can start calling ourselves hippies again.
Nah, I like Jedi. Jedi's a better term.
Jedi's way
That's
cooler.
coming from someone that's not even particularly fond of the films.
Jedi has
fiction.
lasers.
You said earlier that looking badass doesn't have any practicality. I think I have to disagree with you.
That's fair.
It's definitely practical.
That is fair.
It's not about practicality, it's about meaning. Looking
And,
away.
and
Now,
being
if
practical
if
is
looking like
meaningful.
if looking like a badass makes you feel like a badass, there might be some value there.
There you go. Peter?
On what Adastria was talking about, the leaving a church or something. I can't remember exactly how she said it. But I was hit with the idea, couple of things like in Scientology, to leave the Scientology faith, those that still believe are supposed to shun you. You no longer exist. You are dead. The Quran states that to leave Islam is like death. And that has literally been translated or interpreted, literally being interpreted, that if someone leaves Islamic faith, that they are to be killed. And that has been carried out to that extent. Like on longevity, I believe 97, 99, something like that. Like the idea of Jediism really kicked off. It wasn't until 2000 that a new movie came out. 2001 or something like that a new movie came out. And so there wasn't any new films or anything to go off of that existed then. And then it has lasted this long. Why wouldn't it continue to last even beyond our time frame? But to Zero's point, that if it's in us, or Rosalind's point, maybe it was Rosalind was making the point, but if it's in us, what does it matter? We feel like we are doing good. We are a benefit to ourselves and our community, those around us. We're an example to others. That's the legacy we're leaving behind, not necessarily this Jedi mentality. So
okay. I
was
just want to
Alex.
go on the record. Hold on. I want to go on the record and say, if after my death, like it won't happen in my life because I will go after them, but if after my death, somebody has this idea that they are going to go after someone and turn Jediism into a cult, I'm grabbing everybody that's dead with me and we're going to go haunt that person. I'm going on record now. I'm going to say it.
I'll do it too. I'll be part of the
There we go.
parade.
All right, I'm
I
gonna
have a
do
lot
one
of
that
pennies
says it.
stored up.
We're
There you
a
go.
cult of personality.
Hey, I was waiting for it.
I knew I wasn't the only one thinking it.
No, I just mean like if anybody goes full on, like we will kill you if you leave Jediism. I'm gonna go grab up everyone that's dead with me and we're gonna go haunt that person.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's another issue I see with organized religion is like there's always extremist sects or groups within that religion. So like
We
if
have them too.
Jedi, yeah, I kind of, but we just call them Sith and like be like they're not real.
No, we can't. No, no. Okay, so I'm going to. This is another one I will go on record for. We will not use the term Sith because there is a real Sith realist philosophy, and they are not crazy.
Cool.
So we will not use the word Sith to dehumanize somebody else.
That is interesting, though. I think they're probably less organized, or they're in their infancy more than the Jedi. Because, like, if you ask Google or Bing or whatever,
nope, they're as old as Force Academy, which came about in 1998.
Yeah, that's super great. So, like, I found out about this place because I asked ChatGPT and it sent me here. But I asked if there was any Sith out of curiosity, and it said no. So I wonder if
because
that's
I don't know.
Oh, sorry. No. I think it's because the technical Sith doesn't exist. Like the dark, like the Sith you're talking about are actually nice people, like the Satanists, you know. Whereas like my question probably was like, yeah, there's really no like rule of one religion out there, you know, trying to like have a apprentice and like kill the apprentice, or the, you know, apprentice have to kill the master one day. Like there is no real like people who
I mean,
believe
that might be how GPT explain or would think about it in their mind, but you know, that kind of just shows you the limitations of ChatGPT and why you should always go to the sources to find out real life information and not use it for a research thing.
Right.
I'm just saying humans are superior to GPT.
I have bumped into some of those quote unquote Sith.
We all know if you don't shower, your power grows.
Oh, they are a whole load of crazy. I've seen them tell their apprentices to cut off their dogs' heads and bonkers stuff.
Okay, so they have their extremists too. They have their extremists too. So the Force realist community, that is the culmination of Jedi, Mandalorian, Sith, etc. We have our extremists. And some of the people that you find in the Jedi side of things, your heads would pop out, or your eyes would pop out of your skull. And I had to deal with it a lot. I have heard that Tacho sees a lot of them, probably because they go to ChatGPT and find out that Tacho exists. But yeah, we have our extremists also, unfortunately. And so I don't think that anybody is immune from that. I'm sure even the flying spaghetti monster has their extremist.
In pagan land, these are the piety posse. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, the pagans have the piety posse, Galina Kraskova and her ilk.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Now we can.
Yes.
You've been very patient. You can say what you'd like to say.
I've been holding my hand up.
Sorry.
We'll get to you, and then we'll get to Dalby. You guys have been very patient.
Yeah. So, what I was gonna say in regards to like whether or not this thing is gonna die or live, or whatever the equivalent of what Verheilen was talking about. Is it gonna evolve? It's gonna die? What is gonna happen? I think that it's possible that the idea of Jedi, the name, the idea of Jedi with the lightsabers and the robes and all this will probably be a flash in the pan. Not in our lifetime because we're actively keeping it alive, but maybe there will be another myth out there that does the same thing. As we can see that the Marvel universe has like 99 movies, and so
Marvel's dead already. They're done.
Well, well, to be fair, you know, they've got a pretty good corpus. Corpus? whatever that is, body of work. And someone can find some meaning in all those movies because they actually speak to the monomyth, which is what Jediism does. It wasn't the idea of Jediism. Sure, it came from George Lucas, but where did that come from? That came from Joseph Campbell's idea of the monomyth. And so the monomyth is that thing that speaks to the whole of human creation. And that's the thread that binds us all together, past, present, and future. So whatever we dress it as, will ring as true. I would say.
Oh heck yeah. Davi?
Well, you covered the first part, Master Roslin, of what I was going to say. That was identical to what I would say. So just to add on to that, um, as Jedi, if you look at the fictional lore at least, and Sith, for an example, since they're in the discussion as well, they preserved throughout time because they passed down their religion and it continued on. So as long as we are continuing to pass down that faith and that religion and the idea and the concept, and as long as something doesn't evolve past that, and as Jedi, I hope, considering we're knowledge seekers, that we will evolve with it anyway. I can't really imagine that the religion would truthfully ever disappear. And like as Master Rosalind said, George Lucas and Joseph Campbell were simply just, uh, referencing something else anyway. So we're always referencing that. So whatever the truth is uncovered, the more we learn, um, we may add on to that and it may evolve, like we said. But no, I don't think that the concept, like I said earlier, of being a good person and doing the right thing and all that will ever, well, it may try to disappear, but it's like the battle of good and evil, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
Sith and Jedi are just representations of negative and positive, or good and evil, right, in the universe. And these polarities exist, but really it's all one. So yeah, no, I don't think go ahead. I don't think it'll disappear though.
Oh no, I think you and other people here and several other people that I've seen in the forums have kind of all echoed the same thing, which is that this is a way of life first and like a spiritual belief system second, and that's not true for everybody. But it is kind of an interesting way of looking at it because whereas I think it goes opposite with most organized religions. It's like, no, this is about spirituality, this is about belief, this is about, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then this deity or, whatever is going to tell you how to live your life and what you need to do. But you need to have that belief first. You need to have the spiritual side comes first. Whereas here it's about action first and then the spirituality. So
And I don't think anyone's ever a perfect Jedi, nor are they a horrible Jedi or a perfect Sith. I think we're all, like we kind of talked about, somewhere in between. We're on a journey of learning. So the idea of being a Jedi is a commitment to, to doing the right thing, like we said, or choosing that path and staying on it. So it's not for everybody. I truly do believe that the true path of the Jedi is not something that every single human being on this planet could jump aboard and we could get the whole planet to be a Jedi. I don't see that. And I think the idea of understanding the harmony of the universe definitely allows us to see that as well, to know that maybe not everybody could be a Jedi. But I think, everyone could believe in the Force, and everyone could be, maybe a Jedi believer, if you want to put it, believer of the Force. I think we've talked about this before. Like, what is someone who doesn't want to follow all, be a good person all the time? What do we call that person who believes in the Force, and they're not necessarily a Sith? They don't want to be bad all the time, right? And I think that's maybe how it'll evolve. Maybe as a religion, it could get bigger. That would be nice to
mhm,
see it grow in that sense, and not everybody's a Jedi Knight or a priest of the practice, if you would.
definitely. That's all that I had for you guys. We definitely expanded on the topic, and that's what I love about perspectives. Is originally when I first took over perspectives, I kind of tried to frame it as like a lecture, or I'd have like a message, you know, that I'd be trying to get across. And I do still kind of frame things like that from time to time, but this is what I love about perspectives, that everybody shows up, you know, shares their opinions, shares their experience, shares their perspective, and the conversation just evolves. So I love hearing from everybody. I love everybody's ADHD. I love everybody chipping in, you know, when they get an idea in their brain. It's all great stuff, and I just want to thank you guys for being here, and thank you for sharing your perspectives with everybody tonight.
This has been another rant brought to you by Zero.